Hey everyone, I wanted to take a couple of minutes just to go over the directions for the first case study once again. This is due on Sunday, but we haven't had class due to Mardi Gras break, so I wanted to just make a recap so that we're all on the same page. So in this case study, you'll be applying a lot of the information and skills that we learned in the first few chapters of the textbook. With a case study on a woman who is expecting. So first off, you're going to need to calculate her BMI, and based off of her BMI, make a recommendation for weight gain throughout pregnancy. So we want to make sure that you're being mindful of which weight you are using. We see that the pre-pregnancy weight and the current weight are the same, so that makes it a little bit easier for you. But you know the formula for BMI. We did lots of these in class, and so you should be able to do that. As long as you are pretty much hitting the correct BMI closely, I typically do 1 decimal point, but just make sure that you're following the correct formula. Next, you're going to be estimating her basal metabolic rate, or how many calories that she needs. Before we do that, or before we make a recommendation for what she needs during her second and third trimester, we need to know her basal needs. So you're going to use this formula here to calculate her basal metabolic rate, or how many calories she needs just at baseline. So be sure that you are using her weight in kilograms and her height in centimeters. If you mess these up, or if you're using inches and pounds instead, you're not going to get the correct answer here. So be sure that you're using the correct unit for weight and height. This is a calorie estimation, and so it's not really important for you to have a decimal place. Because you can't have 0.2 of a calorie. We wouldn't, use that in the real world. So you can go ahead and round up to the nearest whole number for these recommendations. So once you estimate her BMR, you'll write that in this box here. And then you're going to look in your textbook for what is recommended in as extra calories during the second and the third trimester. So be sure that you're using your textbook, or else you're not going to have the correct answer here. So you'll enter the second trimester, how many extra calories are needed, and then in the third trimester, how many extra calories are needed. In these two boxes, you'll add the estimated BMR and the extra calories needed to find her overall calorie need for the second trimester and for the third trimester. All right, for number 3, you are going to be making recommendations for snacks based on these numbers in this for extra calories needed in the second and the third trimester. So for each trimester, you'll make a recommendation for 2 snacks to meet those extra calorie needs. The biggest thing here is that you need to be specific about which food and how much, as well as how many calories are provided by that food. It can be like a single food, or it can be a combination of a few ingredients to create a snack. So think about what you snack on during the day. I always use the example, someone told me someone once put a whole avocado as a snack. And I love avocados, but I can't imagine just, sitting down, or the general public sitting down and just eating an entire avocado as a snack. So make sure that they're realistic recommendations and something that you and other people would typically eat as well. For the next 2 questions, you are going to make recommendations for meals for being able to meet the recommended allotment for iron, and then for folate, or dietary folate equivalents. So again, you need to be sure that you are using your textbook to make the recommendation for how much iron and folate are needed a day, and then you can make a recommendation for specific foods. So again, be sure that you're being specific about the food, the amount, and how much iron is provided. I gave the example in class that if you say cereal, well, what kind of cereal? How much cereal? and then you will get all your points. Finally, you are going to plot her weight gain using the appropriate growth chart. So make sure that you are looking at her BMI and using the correct growth chart or weight gain graph to chart her weight changes. And remember the trick I showed you in class about first seeing like how much weight change there has been before you actually go to graph it, just to make it easier. You don't need to do anything other than plot the points. You don't need to draw lines to connect to the points or anything. Just plot the points along the graph and be sure that you include that in your case study, in your submission. If you don't include that, you will have points deducted in this area. All right, and then finally, you are going to use the position paper that is uploaded to Moodle. It's titled Nutrition and Lifestyle for a Healthy Pregnancy Outcome, to make to identify 3 concerns related to Susan's specific case. So, for instance, if she isn't at risk for weight gain or gaining too much weight during her pregnancy, that doesn't need to be a concern that you identify. I'm not saying that's the case, but if that is the case, you don't want to bring up a concern that isn't specific to her outlook. So be sure that you are choosing a concern that is actually related to her case and then explaining why this is a concern. You can use the literature in this article to back up your or to explain why this is a concern and how it relates to Susan's case. So that answers a few of the questions that I've received. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email and I will be happy to answer those.